Can't drink tea if your stomach is not good. Doctors remind elderly people with bad stomachs should drink less of these 4 kinds of tea. Do you also think that drinking tea can keep you healthy? Many elderly people drink tea first thing in the morning. Before they have eaten, they drink a big cup of tea, which makes them feel ventilated, refreshed, and oily. But do you know that some teas are especially harmful to the stomach if you drink them incorrectly? Especially if your stomach is not very good. After drinking this cup of tea, you may not even realize that your stomach is already crying for help. Doctors remind that some teas should not be drunk casually, especially for elderly people with gastritis, bloating, acid reflux, and stomach cold. Otherwise, they are recuperating instead of keeping healthy. Today, let's talk about this topic. Which teas should people with bad stomachs drink less? Why? How to drink it without hurting the stomach. You will understand after listening. If you have stomach discomfort, or there are elderly people in your family who drink tea all year round, you might as well like and follow us to avoid stepping into the pit in the future. Let me first tell you about someone I know. There is an old man in our community, 67 years old, whose biggest hobby after retirement is drinking tea. He is not a confused person. He lives a very regular life, and he is also very health conscious. There are a lot of tea leaves at home, such as green tea, black tea, and pu'er tea, which are neatly arranged in rows in the cabinet. The most interesting thing is that he gets up before 6 o'clock every morning, and the first thing he does is boil water to make tea. He likes to drink strong tea, so he has to put a lot of tea leaves in a brew. Then he sits on the balcony in the sun and drinks it, sweating profusely and enjoying it very much. But the strange thing is that this old man Wang has been complaining about stomach discomfort in the past 6 months. It's not the kind of pain that makes you roll around, but bloating, acid reflux, belching, and loss of appetite. He thought he had eaten something bad at first, but then the situation became more and more serious. His family took him to the hospital for a checkup. When the doctor heard that he drank concentrated pu'er tea on an empty stomach in the morning, he said on the spot, "You have a typical case of tea damaging your stomach." That day the old man came back and said, "Oh, I never expected it. I thought drinking tea every day was good for health, but it turned out to be harmful to the body." This incident tells us a truth. Tea is not forbidden to drink, but it is not suitable for everyone to drink in any way, especially for the elderly with poor stomachs, who have to be more particular. It's not that the tea is wrong, but the way of drinking is wrong. At this point, some people may mutter in their hearts, "No, I always hear people say that pu'er nourishes the stomach, and black tea warms the stomach. Why do they say that tea hurts the stomach now? Which one is true?" I tell you, both are true, but the focus is not on the tea itself, but on whether you have stomach problems, what kind of tea you drink, whether you drink it at the right time, and whether you... Let's start with the human body. When people get old, their gastrointestinal function is actually slowly weakening. When we are young, we have strong gastric secretion and strong digestion ability, so drinking some tea is fine and the stomach can handle it. But once we are over 50, many people's gastric mucosa becomes thinner, and there is not so much gastric acid, and the protective power decreases greatly. At this time, if you have another cup of strongly irritating tea, such as particularly strong green tea or cold tea on an empty stomach, the stomach and intestines can easily not stand it. I have seen several elderly people who drink tea 3 times a day, eat less, and drink a lot of tea. Especially when they get angry or eat something greasy, they start to have bloating and acid reflux, and in severe cases, there is gastric bleeding. Do you think this can be blamed on tea? No, it's because they drink too much. And have you noticed? Many elderly people like to drink tea to relieve greasiness, especially after a meal, a large cup of strong tea, saying that it is scraping off fat. But in the end, the stomach is scraped dry. In addition, some teas are cold, such as green tea and herbal tea. When you drink them in cold weather, your stomach will get cold, and your blood vessels will contract. The slow stomach will become even slower, and you will not be able to digest food. Food stagnation, acid reflux, and heartburn will all come. So, the doctor is right. Drinking tea is a science, especially for the elderly. You can't compare it with young people. You can't force it. You have to pick and choose, and look at your body before deciding how to drink it. To be honest, tea is a good thing. The ancients have long said that tea can digest food, reduce phlegm, clear the head, and promote urination. But no matter how good a thing is, if you drink it wrong, it can become a weapon that hurts your body. Don't tell me, most people really can't tell which tea hurts the stomach. Some teas look soft and fragrant, but in fact, they stimulate the stomach more strongly than a bowl of old hen soup, especially if you don't pay attention when drinking it on an empty stomach. Too cold or too thick, it's all a minefield. Let me start with a few examples I have seen with my own eyes. There is an Aunt Lee in our community. She is over 60 years old. She was an elementary school teacher before she retired. She is very literary. She likes to drink a kind of tea called green tea. She is very particular about it. She wants to drink spring tea like Westlake Longing. When spring comes, she sits on the balcony and brews a cup of tea, savoring it carefully, like savoring life. She often says, tea should be fresh, and green tea is the most refreshing. But this green tea is cold and stimulating. Aunt Lee herself has a cold stomach, and she is prone to bloating and acid reflux when the seasons change. But she still insists on drinking a cup of green tea in the morning and eating after drinking it. Sometimes the tea is brewed very strong, saying that the tea fragrance will come out. As a result, in less than half a year, her stomach was uncomfortable every day. One night, she suddenly had stomach cramps, and her family was scared. She was sent to the hospital for a checkup, and it was found that she had an acute attack of gastritis. The doctor asked her if she had any eating habits recently. When she said that she drank strong green tea on an empty stomach every day, the doctor said on the spot, "Oh, isn't this making things worse?" The doctor explained very straightforwardly, green tea contains more caffeine and polyphenols, which are particularly easy to irritate the gastric mucosa when fasting. Young people can still bear it, but when they are old, their gastrointestinal function is weak, their gastric juice is less, and the tea will cause problems. So the doctor suggested that she switch to light black tea, and she must drink it after meals. Later, she listened to the advice and changed to drinking aged black tea, the kind that was brewed very lightly, and her stomach did feel much better. Let me talk about another tea that is most easily misunderstood, pu'er, especially for the elderly. When they hear stomach-nourishing tea, their first reaction is right pu'er, and they feel that this tea is smooth, warms the stomach and scrapes fat. Many people even drink very strong pu'er for a long time, saying that it can dissolve fat and reduce the 3 highs. There is an old man downstairs from our house. His surname is Jia, and he does this. He doesn't smoke or drink, and his biggest hobby is drinking pu'er. He gets up at 5:30 in the morning, drinks a pot of hot pu'er, then goes for a walk, walks in circles, and does boxing, looking very proud. But his proudness didn't last for a few years. Later, he began to have severe bloating, stomach cold, and belching. He went to the hospital for a gastroscopy, and the doctor said that his stomach was already in a state of chronic superficial gastritis. He was asked if he drank tea on an empty stomach, and he said, "I drink it every day, and I feel energetic after drinking it." The doctor sighed and said, "You have ruined your stomach by soaking it yourself." In fact, there are 2 types of pu'er. One is raw pu'er and the other is cooked pu'er. Raw pu'er is highly irritating and not suitable for people with bad stomachs, although cooked pu'er is milder. If you soak it too strong and drink it too hard, it contains a lot of caffeine and tea polyphenols, which will hurt your stomach over time. The doctor said it very pertinently. It's not that you can't drink it, but you can't drink it as water. And you can't drink it on an empty stomach and drink it several times a day. Let's talk about the cold brewed tea and iced tea that many people like to drink in summer. When the weather gets hot, especially when it's over 30 degrees like now, as soon as you walk into a convenience store, you'll see bottles of green tea and oolong tea neatly arranged in the freezer, which are cool and tempting. Many elderly people also learn from young people and drink a sip of herbal tea, which feels reducing heat and relieves heat. But do you know? This iced tea, cold tea, even if it's good tea, as long as it's cold, the blood vessels in the stomach will contract as soon as it enters the stomach. People sweat a lot in summer, and the digestive power of the stomach is weak. At this time, if you cold it head-on, the stomach will be like soaking in ice water. How can it not hurt? I know an aunt who used to run a breakfast shop. When it gets hot, she drinks cold brewed tea to quench her thirst. As a result, she always had gastrointestinal problems for a while, sometimes diarrhea, sometimes bloating. She went to the hospital 3 times, and finally the doctor said, "Stop drinking your iced tea." She said, "How can I live in summer if I don't drink iced tea?" The doctor smiled and said, "You can drink warm light tea instead, which will quench your thirst and won't hurt your stomach." Speaking of this, I have to remind you that drinking tea is not for the taste or to join in the fun, but to make your body comfortable. The heat in summer does not mean that you can freeze your stomach, but that you can follow the coolness and adjust in an appropriate way. No matter how delicious cold tea or herbal tea is, it is really not recommended for elderly people with bad stomachs. There is also a kind of tea called flower and fruit tea, which many female comrades like to drink. It has beautiful colors and sweet taste, especially those with hawthorn, roselle, and rose. The tea is bright red and looks good in photos. But many of these teas are acidic, which is particularly unfriendly to people with excessive stomach acid. I know an old lady who loves beauty. After retirement, she pursues the quality of life and drinks beauty flower tea every day, hawthorn plus rose plus wolfberry, and brews a large pot at a time. After drinking it for a few months, her stomach began to burp, and she thought it was because of her bad temper. The doctor told her that flower and fruit tea is acidic, and her stomach has a little superficial gastritis. If she drinks it every day, her stomach will have problems sooner or later. The doctor suggested that if she wanted to drink flower tea, she could change it to warm honeysuckle, chrysanthemum, tangerine peel, etc., to reconcile the cold and acidity and reduce the stimulation. After she changed it, her stomach did not have any problems. In fact, the stomach of the elderly is as delicate as that of children. You can't expect it to be immune to all poisons like when you were young and drink whatever you want. You have to know how to take care of it and don't compete with it. Tea can be drunk, but drinking it correctly is health preservation, and drinking it incorrectly is slowly damaging yourself. Some people say, "What kind of tea should I drink?" In fact, you only need to remember one principle. Don't drink it cold, don't drink it thick, don't drink it cold, and don't drink it on an empty stomach. These don't sound simple, but they actually contain decades of experience and lessons learned by doctors. Don't look at that cup of tea, which may only be a few dozen milliliters, but if you drink it incorrectly or get used to it, your body will suffer every day, especially for the elderly. The stomach is not very strong. A little stimulation may cause serious problems. Don't recover from illness before you succeed in health preservation. After saying so much, someone must ask, how should we drink tea? Should people with bad stomachs stop drinking tea from now on? Of course not. The doctor does not ask you to give up tea, but to learn to get along with your body. I interviewed an old Chinese doctor, and I still remember his words. He said, "Tea is a magical herb. If you drink it right, it is a tonic, and if you drink it wrong, it is a poisonous herb." Although this is a heavy word, it is really reasonable. If you have a bad stomach or you are old, you want to drink tea, but you are afraid of hurting your stomach. The doctor recommends a few points for you to remember. First, don't drink on an empty stomach. No matter how late the tea is, drinking it on an empty stomach is also irritating, especially when you just get up in the morning. The stomach is the most vulnerable. At this time, drink some warm water to slow down, then eat something, and then drink tea. Second, the tea should be warm, not cold. Even in summer, tea should not be drunk iced, let alone cold brewed tea as water. You can let the tea cool for a while, but warm tea is most comfortable for the stomach. Third, tea should be light, not strong. Many elderly people have a bad habit of drinking tea. The stronger the tea, the more fragrant it is, and the stronger the tea, the more thirst-quenching it is. But there are too many caffeine and polyphenols in strong tea, and the stomach can't stand it if you drink too much. It's better to brew it twice than to pour it in at once. Fourth, choose the right tea. Elderly people with cold stomachs can drink some black tea, right pour, or aged white tea. The tea is mild and not easy to irritate the stomach and intestines. Those with weak spleen and stomach can add some tangerine peel and wolfberry to blend it. Scented tea is not undrinkable, but you have to choose one that is not sour or cold, and don't just seek fragrance. Drinking tea is actually the same as being a person. Don't be too strong, too anxious, or too biased. Be gentle so that the body can bear it, and tea can truly become a health-preserving thing. After all, tea is not a scourge, nor is it a panacea. It is like salt, oil, and sugar in our lives. If used well, it will add icing on the cake. If used poorly, it will add to the trouble. Especially for people with bad stomachs and the elderly, you have to listen to the voice of your body. Don't always rely on your mouth to say I'm fine. Your stomach has long been quietly shouting I can't stand it. It doesn't mean that these 4 types of tea must not be drunk, but you have to drink less, drink lightly, and don't drink on an empty stomach. Don't drink for the sake of taste, and don't ruin your body. If you feel, hey, my dad is the kind of person who drinks strong tea on an empty stomach in the morning, and my mom drinks cold brew tea every day in summer, after listening to this video today, then I suggest you forward it to them to see. It's better to give them a word of advice than to be hospitalized. Do you also have the habit of drinking tea when you have a bad stomach? What teas have you drunk that make you nauseous? Welcome to chat in the comment area. Let's communicate together. The more we talk, the more we understand, and the healthier we are. Don't forget to like and follow it. We will continue to talk about drinking tea, drinking water, eating, and other seemingly small but actually important things in the future, and strive to give you some practical help in each video. Drinking tea is not a big deal, but it is not a small deal. But if you drink it wrong, you can have problems. Let's stop here today. Thank you for listening. We will continue in the next issue.